Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Non-To Comic Book. This video show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. So this episode did a very interesting thing. It's a very Ezekiel-heavy episode, and I like obviously this episode is properly titled Some Guy. Don't expect that all the time. There's just a few occasions where I know ahead of time what the episode title is, just because I ended up seeing it and it stuck out in my head. Well, this one, I like what it represents in this episode. Obviously this deals with the fact is obviously picking up where last week's episode left off with Ezekiel, like his people guarding him as they're basically, we see that everyone that, like now with this episode, we see that everyone that was with Ezekiel, not just the ones guarding him, but everyone was ripped apart. Those bullets left some huge like bullet wounds in a lot of people. So like everyone is promptly dead except for Ezekiel. There's even, you see limbs torn off, like people got shredded with that attack last week. And now it's like you see Ezekiel being the only one left amongst his people. Remember last week's episode, and they played up a little bit as the opening to this episode of him charging his people up, saying, "Yet I smile." A lot of what he did last week's episode, that, you know, even the odds are against him, yet he smiles, knowing that, you know, that these people have to be away from their loved ones. But it's a reality that hit him, because it's something he told Carol last week. It's like, you fake it till you make it. And he believed so hard, like we won't lose a single one. And in that one moment, lost everything and everyone. And I like that this episode is shattering that persona he went through so much trouble to make. He's up crossing a guy who ends up killing the last person that was in with him, one of the last people from the kingdom that were alive that helped him get away from the whole situation. Ended up killing him. I mean, even prior to that, he was seeing all the people, these people that were by his side, seeing them turn into walkers. In particular, the mom who had the little flower on her arm, that she got from her child, seeing her turn into a walker. And I think he ended up killing her in particular, maybe it's just because of proximity, but also because it's just like you don't deserve amongst, like none of his people deserve that. But I think in that particular moment, it's like your son wouldn't want you walking around as one of those things. And we've seen that those type of situations where a child ends up somehow coming across their parent as a walker does not end well. Take Morgan's situation, for example. But I don't know. Like I said, it might not have been that deep. It might have just been like a situation of she was closest to him, so would be the most dangerous. But the guy that captured in this episode was just a nobody, trying to make a name for himself. But then he kind of pokes holes at Ezekiel, because he sees through Ezekiel. It's like, I know what you are. You worked at a circus or something, didn't you? The whole entire thing. You're just acting as a king, but look at you. You're just some guy, but look what happened here. All these people, they followed you and they died for you. Did they even know it was a sham? You led all these people to their deaths with your speeches. And that starts breaking Ezekiel, because it's like, he's had people die before. This isn't the first time, but on such a large scale, and because they were following him. It was his decision to work with Rick and Maggie and try and topple, you know, the saviors, and so he feels the most responsible. But this guy, because this guy is making him confront something he's never really had to deal with. Obviously, sometimes in time he'll break character. In particular, around Carol, he'll be like, okay, I'm just some dude. But this, it's just because it's like this guy, in all honesty, made Ezekiel face his own fears, face his own reality, making him realize you're nothing special. You're putting up this persona as a king, but you're just some regular dude. You're a con artist leading all these people to their deaths. I mean, promptly, dude ended up getting his promptly by Jerry, who split him in half pretty much. That was brutal. Didn't see that coming, because I didn't see Jerry most of the time. I was like, where's Jerry? Where's Jerry? Oh, don't tell me Jerry. But luckily, Jerry is still alive. Because for Ezekiel, like, he didn't even want Jerry sacrificing his life. Just go, just leave me behind. Because this actually coincides with Carol's story, too, in this episode, too, in the sense of, like, promptly dispatching of those guys who lit up the kingdom's people that were with Ezekiel by hiding in the ceiling. That was pretty impressive. There's a moment where you see her almost kind of like sighing. I don't know whether it's just because there's so many people, she was just kind of like nervous about how she's going to handle it, or is there still reservations in her about, you know, having to be this person again, having to kill people. Like, she had nothing to do with this, remember, last season, but now like things have changed and she has to transition over to doing this. It was a combination of last season and like season 5 and season 6 and season 7 that she's kind of dealing with this. But in this regard, it's just, I think that might have been it, or maybe it was just kind of, okay, how am I going to do this, you know? So probably handle that whole situation by herself, like showing you that Carol is not to be messed with. And that kind of coincides in the episode too, because like it shows a past conversation that they had. It's like Ezekiel is like, he wills it to be. He's like, look at me. I'm just a zookeeper. I'm no one special. The fact of the matter is, when I met Shiva, it was just an instinct of mine. Like, I had two choices. I could help her or I could not. Like, it just only in a span of a few seconds, he decided that this is the person I'm going to be, and that would be the one to step in. Because just as easily going in there could just as be dangerous for him, because Shiva could have ripped him apart. So, putting the danger aside, he made that choice to do that. And it's something he said that Benjamin told him, if the hero is needed, then be the hero that's needed. And so for him, he's willed to be, he's like, I haven't always been the person that I need to be, but I made that decision. I think subsequently, since the Benjamin thing, he's done it before, but I think even more so now. After Benjamin, it ignited something in him to be like, hey, when it's all said and done, I will be that person. This is the man my people need me to be, and I will be that person. He made the choice to be Ezekiel. And he asked Carol, is the same for her? Which she replies, she chose to be who she is now, but also life decided. Because if you remember, you compare Carol to who she was at the very beginning to who she is now, very different person. But that's because, once again, life made her into this person. It took, she came from that rough situation in season 1 with an abusive husband. Season 2, she ended up losing her daughter, like the only person in the world that she loved and cared about. So it kind of made her who she is. Like on occasions, especially stuff in season 3, Carol made hard decisions. Wasn't that season? Nope, season 4. There were some decisions made in season 4 that she did because you could argue it's cold-hearted, but it's just because of the nature of things that made Carol who she was that led to her making those decisions. Remember, there was like the people getting sick, and Carol was the one that was secretly killing people, in particular, the woman that Tyrese was in love with. The actress who plays Scott's mom in Teen Wolf. So that she killed her and someone else. I think it was at least 2 or 3 people Carol killed during that whole situation. But nevertheless, so it's just kind of an interesting thing, and that they would be, here now. Like, they are very similar in that regard, and I don't think I've ever really taken the time out to really, because it's so interesting, like, because the series tends to put them together the most, Carol and Ezekiel. Because I guess during her whole situation back in season 7, like, Ezekiel was the one that kind of extended his hand, like giving her space, but also being there for when she needs someone to be there for her. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting when you break it down. But like, Carol was trying to stop the guys with the guns, but she came back and helped Ezekiel and Jerry. I mean, fortunately enough, Rick and Daryl showed up to kind of take care of that. That was good. Because, side note, the main guy that she was talking to amongst that group, where have I seen him before? He looks so familiar. I swear I've seen him in like Riverdale, but I could be 100% wrong. I just thought if it was Riverdale, it's kind of interesting. Another TV show based on a comic book and stuff like that. But nevertheless, it might have been that. I feel like I've seen him in other things too, but I feel like it was like Riverdale for pops in my head. But like I said, I could be completely wrong about that. Because basically those guns were going to help with the whole sanctuary situation of like all those walkers around. So luckily they don't have that, which I won't say anything about that. I was about to say something, but that's kind of like connected to next week's episode, so I won't say anything. But nevertheless, it's still that situation of like, Carol and Jerry are helping him get away, but he's telling them to leave him behind, because it's just like, I'm some guy. He's asking Jerry, he's like, I will hold these walkers off if you guys go, because he didn't want another person to die because of him. And then it did happen, whether he wanted it to or not, where Shiva shows up and basically acts as a distraction. She kills some walkers, but the others pile on and kill her. And I think that was the final straw for Ezekiel, because she's been by his side since the beginning. She's the one person by his side through it all. Like, he never had to be like some king. She knew exactly who he was. He was just some guy beside this majestic beast that could rip him apart at any time. But I think it was an unspoken bond between them. The fact is that he didn't hesitate. He helped her, so she's always stayed by his side. And you can say it's a mirror reflection of what I brought up earlier about their story, about how he didn't hesitate to save her. Like, he could have gone one of two ways, and she did the same thing. But dad depth, I think, amongst anything else. It's just that combined with everything he lost in this episode. You see him broken. Like, you've never seen Ezekiel like that. Like, he was devastated after Benjamin's death, but I feel like not even to this extent. Like, he's walking away. His people are like, not saying a word. And the boy he talked to at the beginning of the episode is right there. He just looks at him and kind of smiles and pats the kid and just walks away. And you see Jerry and Carol, because it's a situation of reality hitting you hard. And it's just kind of like the unsavory aspect of this world, So, like I said, this episode was a big focus of him looking at himself in the mirror and like, I'm no king. I'm just some guy who's just manipulating and pulling people along. And it's just, I'm curious to see how they pull Ezekiel back from this, because it does not seem like the easiest thing to come back from. I mean, I think it was just such a beautifully done, like, episode for him, because like he's always been this eccentric king, obviously it all being an act, and to see it just, that act come undone. My question is, like, from now on, will he just be his real self? Like, I don't remember. I don't remember if Ezekiel is actually his name. I don't think it is. I think it was just, part of the persona, if I remember correctly. It's, it came up last season, but I don't remember. But I'm curious, like, from here on out, will he stop it? Will he be like, I'm just Ezekiel, And there's even that cool line from Jerry being like, thank you. And then Ezekiel's like, why are you thanking me? He's like, I just want to thank you for being such a cool dude. Because even Jerry, he was like, he dropped the persona around Jerry. He's just like, just go. I'm no king. I'm some dude. But Jerry still stood by his side, and Jerry hasn't said anything. I don't think Jerry will say anything, because I think what he's done, like, he may look at it as an act, but at the same time, I think it's a situation kind of similar to Rick's situation, whereas this is bigger than him. What Ezekiel has done, he has brought people together. He has given them hope. He has built a home that they are one heart. They are one mind. They are they are one, and he's built all that. The fact of the matter is, I think it is something, it's kind of a give and take with my belief on this. Like, the fact is that it is more than him, but at the same time, the fact is that people are willing to sacrifice for him makes it seem like it is just about him. Because arguably you could say, well, what is most important is the idea of him, a man that brought this kingdom together. Like, it's not just him being some king. It's not some special person like he may be to other people, but it's just like, the fact is that Ezekiel isn't just the person. Ezekiel is an idea. I mean, arguably you could say it's kind of the same thing as the Negan thing, where it's like, I didn't even think about that till just now, like how closely similar that is, where they are Negan, we are Negan, and then we have people being like, we are, it's very similar, but it's like different spectrums of it. And I guess arguably that could be what another reason to do this episode too, to show you the difference between Negan's way of doing it and Ezekiel's way of doing it, That maybe Negan never looked at himself as a king or anyone special. Once again, I don't know if we'll ever get an episode really breaking down who Negan was. Because it's something I've wanted, but then at the same time, I'm like, to be fair, the show has never always been about who you were. The show's always kind of been about who you've become. I mean, certain cases, because I mean, even Ezekiel's story, you hear it in conversation. It's not like you saw it. Even Rick's situation, but even then you've seen Rick change, because he's been the main focus of the show, being like the main protagonist and everything. You've seen him transition from the beginning to the series who he is now. Hence the whole Morales situation last episode too. But I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting thing when you like think about it too much. Like I tend to like kind of break things down like that, just the comparisons, because it's like Negan never puts up any front. He is like, I am me. That's all this is. And yet there's so many people that follow him. Ezekiel put up this front, and there's all these different people following him. But it's like, aside from that kingship, would people still follow him? Or is it just beyond him, where we fight not just for you, but for the future that you said, like I said, I'm curious to see how his people react. I'm curious to see how Ezekiel goes from here. Like, will he keep up the persona? Will he drop it? If so, if he does drop it, it'd be kind of interesting to see that going forward, especially around Maggie and Rick. They were like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, dude, it was an act, so I don't know. Like I said, because it is something that he's built that is more to him. But like I said, once again, it does come back to the fact that people are willing to sacrifice for him. So does that kind of undermine that a bit? Is it something that's, no, it's not about other people, because it's still about him. It's about protecting him. I don't know. I guess that's up to any one person's interpretation to decide what that is. I gotta lean more towards it's an idea rather than just him, but I still feel a little flip floppy on that. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Maybe the show will kind of give us a definitive answer on that. That's all where my mindset is about the whole situation. So, I mean, if you take something like his people's reaction, like no one was pissed at him. They were just all like just standing there. It's not like it was like, oh, what happened to our people? I mean, granted, that could be a conversation that comes up next time. But for now, like no one bombarded him. No one was just, oh, what happened? What happened? Oh, you let us. I mean, that, like I said, might be a situation because that kind of happened back with Rick when this whole savior situation broke down, because that led to people like Spencer being like, oh no, this is all Rick's fault, he got us to this point and everything. So maybe have something similar to that. But it seems like amongst anyone, like his people believe in him so much that it's like, no, we understand that these people died, they died for our sake, for protecting our king, they were truly brave. So like I said, it all comes down to like how they decide to go forward with this, and I'm curious to see how that handles. Like, how will what is the people's reaction to these circumstances? Will they be pro Ezekiel? Will they be against him? Are they okay with it because they understand that this was always going to be the thing? I mean, because Ezekiel said that to his people last episode, the whole like, oh, not one of us. He said that to the people that he was with. Never necessarily said that in this episode, even at the beginning. It was like, no, like, we will bleed, yet I smile. So it's almost everything he said made it seem like nowhere did he promise that none of them would die. And I guess that almost hits him as hard too, because even if you fake it till you make it, like you fake it long enough that you start to believe it, but because your belief was based on something like that, because it was based on his belief of him being something else, being someone else, that it all came crashing down, especially because he gave those people so much hope and belief that not a single one of us will die, and then for them all to lose their lives like that. Going back to the whole aspect of, I led them to their death. So that's a heavy weight on anyone's shoulder, and truth be told, that's not just specifically to Ezekiel, that's to any leader in this situation. I think Maggie and I think Rick would have that same situation. They've been in that situation. Maybe not necessarily to that degree, but they've lost a lot of people over the course of everything they've experienced so far throughout this series. But even then, like I said, Ezekiel's situation is kind of a rare breed all on its own. So I kind of made the comparisons to Negan earlier on, but what if we interestingly ended up finding out that Negan is the exact same thing as Ezekiel, a con artist himself? I doubt it. Like, Negan seems like he is who he is and he enjoys it. But once again, I'm rambling on, going on all these tangents. This is just my thoughts about the whole thing. I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I was like, screw it. Basically, it seems like next week's episode deals with the sanctuary situation, so it's definitely going to be interesting. I only saw part of the preview, so I'm definitely interested to get back to the whole Gabriel and Negan situation, but there's going to be some other like interesting things going down with the whole sanctuary situation as well. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.